Alright, you know what? I was going to make a video on the Blastotron 9000 and any of the other sci-fi weapons that I haven't covered yet when or if those llamas come back to the game. But they've released with V-Bucks, I think, at least 3 times now, so whatever. Enough of you have the schematic, let's talk about the Blastotron 9000. So right off the bat, all of the gameplay you see today was recorded alongside the De-Atomizer 9000, which is a weapon that is overdue for an update by me. It's not like my perks are outdated, I'll link my video below even still, it's just that durability has been changed around and my style of content has changed a lot. It's a good old video, I still recommend it, but I think we're going to be talking about that one again, and the fact that the Blastotron 9000 is a single shot, semi-auto sniper means that it's not really amazing for crowd clearing and works fantastic alongside the De-Atomizer in that you can use the Blastotron 9000 for, I suppose, your main DPS, taking out single targets, bigger single targets, fantastic against mist monsters and smashers and all the fatties and the things you'd expect, and then the De-Atomizer is fantastic for clearing away absolutely anything else that you couldn't quite take care of. So I was quite comfortably using both of these weapons together, and it made for a very, very good combo. So the Blastotron 9000 is kind of what we already said, and that is a very, very powerful sniper that really functions more like a laser beam because it's a sci-fi weapon, and you can kind of see that we're shooting lasers here. And just like many of the other semi-auto snipers in this game, it actually doesn't do a ton of damage single shot, and relies more on, consecutive shots following. So the way that I've perked it here, and for a lot of the gameplay, is something I'm a little skeptical about. I mean, the 420 Blaze It is fantastic with the double crit damage, but personally, I found that fire rate was a lot more convenient. In my first round of recordings, I used Rabbit Raider Jonesy in the lead, and that was okay, but it really meant that it was requiring 4 or 5 shots per, fat enemy. If it wasn't a basic zombie and it had any meaningful amount of health, I was spamming more shots than I had in the magazine to eliminate these enemies more often than not. If I didn't hit a crit, it was almost useless, and this is kind of an extreme example of why I don't always recommend crit builds on these weapons, because with crit rating, double crit damage, and Rabbit Raider in my lead, I am putting all of my eggs in the crit basket. So in my second round of recording, I actually switched it up, put Redline Ramirez in my lead and Rabbit Raider Jonesy in the support this time. That way I wasn't relying so much on the crits, and I could shoot a lot more shots a little bit quicker, and that seemed to be a much more comfortable way to run this, but I'll still recommend different perks towards the end. We'll get to that in a minute. But all that aside, this weapon does really have a nice feel to it. It's more like a DMR. It's classed as a sniper, but this is really more of like a DMR. It's an AR. It's like a semi-auto weapon, but it only has 8 shots in the magazine. So that does make it a little bit tricky, especially for crowd clearing, which is of course why I mentioned I use the De-Atomizer, but that's a topic for another video. The best perks for the Blastotron are really up to whatever you're doing. With this build right here, double crit damage, crit rating, reload is probably the most enticing to people who know how weapons are usually perked. This seems really good on paper, and it is technically probably the highest damage per second way to go, but this is a sniper. You want to be eliminating in as few shots as possible, and relying only on crits has not been my favorite way to go. So how I perked this when I first used it was actually fire rate, crit rating, crit damage, reload, and that actually felt really, really good, and I kind of stand by that to this day. This isn't my main weapon, I rarely use it, but if I was going to start using this, I would probably put a fire rate on this. That just smoothens out the damage a lot, but unfortunately, you still have that problem of only having 8 shots in the magazine. You can roll a mag size on this, but 6 extra shots I think is all that's going to net you, and 14 is quite a bit more. That is nice. It almost doubles your mag size, 75%, but that is significant when your mag size is so low here, and that might make a meaningful difference to you guys. So with a 1.7 reload speed with a reload perk on this means your downtime wouldn't be too significant with mag size, and it would allow you to eliminate more enemies without having to reload quite as often. So my official perk recommendation for this is depending on what you're doing. With this loadout, if you're using Totally Rockin' Out, then it really doesn't matter. Totally Rockin' Out makes every weapon really powerful, but it'll give you a much higher chance to crit, and this will be a very, very fantastic way to go. If you're using this for all-around purpose and you don't really care, I'd highly recommend just fire rate, reload, crit, and crit damage. And then, of course, if you want to roll mag size instead of reload, you can do that. That's entirely up to you guys. That's kind of a preference. I don't really think I have any sway here in my recommendation. You're pretty much up to whatever you want to do. And the damage perk is also interesting. This hasn't been known to make a meaningful impact on many weapons in this game. That extra damage perk, it kind of gets dwarfed by the crits as they stack differently and separately, and your effective damage bonus is only ever about 15%. So if you're finding that you're leaving enemies on really, really low HP and you don't really care about the reload and you don't really need more mag size, yeah, you could absolutely go damage on this. But I'm not personally running it, and I'd warn against it if you don't exactly know how the math kind of stacks up with these weapons. Now, a nice little alternate build, which is really more geared towards convenience rather than actual total damage output, is the fact that you actually have a second option for mag size here. So if you want to go reload and mag size, which is effectively converting this to an AR, at this point you are no longer using a sniper. I mean, technically you are, but it'll feel a lot more like, you know, a semi-auto buzz cut with like half the normal magazine. So with 14 shots in the mag, with reload and mag size, you could just run a normal crit rate and crit damage on this. And this is a very high powered weapon, which will be doing absolutely plenty of damage, and I'm sure that would probably be the most convenient way to run this. That's an alternate build. That is not something I absolutely recommend, but if it's something you want to try out, I highly recommend giving it a go because these weapons are very fun to play with. But with this weapon, seeing as the 6 perk kind of doesn't matter, there are a lot of options. So the 6 perk can buff the crit rating and the damage, and there might be more. You can leave them in the comments below, but there aren't really any perks that interact with that 6 perk whatsoever, so it doesn't really matter what 6 perk you have. If I do recall correctly, all of the Sci-Fi 6 perks are actually pretty good, so I don't really think it makes a difference there. But yeah, if you want a high-powered, long-range laser beam of a weapon that'll be a real shake-up to how you normally play, the Blastotron 9000 is a fantastic pick. And if you are one of the people who got this from the Sci-Fi Llamas, I really do recommend leveling it up. Give it a go. Try it out for yourself. It's a Mist Monster Slayer. It is very, very good for the higher level targets. And then for the crowd clearing, I recommend like the Pulsar 9000 shotgun or the Atomizer if you want to stick with the same weapon set, or the Blastotron Mini, which is actually a perfect conjunction to this because they share the same name. So you can tell that Epic saw that these were very, very similar weapons. If you don't know anything about the Blastotron Mini, I'll leave you with that video on the end screen here and take off. So hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to support the channel, feel free to use code Mista at your checkout. You know, join the channel, become a member on YouTube if you guys want to support me. 8 minutes after this recording, I'll be checking out the shop, but for you guys, you're gonna have to see on your own. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day. And then